Hi, I'm Jo Clark, and thanks so much for joining me today. This is the Redefining Midlife podcast, a podcast designed for the 40-plus woman who is determined to challenge society's myths and beliefs around midlife. It's for the woman who is inspired and ready to define midlife her way. Join me each week as I chat to health and wellness experts for up-to-date information on how to live well as some special conversations with incredible everyday women redefining what midlife can look like. Here's to making our next half of life even better than the first. Before I introduce today's episode, I want to take the time to thank those of you who have left a rating on Spotify or a rating and review on Apple. I really do love putting together these episodes for you each week, and it means so much when someone takes that time to subscribe or follow the podcast, share episodes, or leave a rating and review. Just by doing one of those things is going to help the podcast to be heard by more people. Now, I'd really love to share a very special recent review left by a listener. And she writes, I've been listening to your podcast for some time now, and I wanted to say thank you for the consistent message regarding prioritizing our health as we move through the changes of life. My menopause was induced 15 years ago after having a hysterectomy, and it is only now that I've become aware of the many other risks involved. In particular, your discussions regarding bone density and osteoporosis saw me follow up with my doctor for a BMD test. Because of this, I am now aware as to what my levels are and am taking the necessary actions to remain healthy and strong in the years to come. Jo, thank you for shining a light on this area of women's health that has gone unspoken for way too long. Well, you are so very, very welcome. And how incredible it is to know that you've taken this important step for your health. So well done. I'm also excited to share that in another few weeks, I'll be speaking to Professor Belinda Beck. Now, Professor Beck is a world leader in bone health for women, so make sure you don't miss that episode. Now, on to today's very special guest. I've got the pleasure of introducing you to Jess Soto-Ramirez. She'll love how I've just said her name. She's a powerhouse of a woman and is someone I'm proud to call my friend. Jess is a women's business empowerment coach, keynote speaker, and podcast host of her own show called Ignite. She works with women to help them improve their mindset, boost their confidence to help propel their business and life to that next level. And in today's chat, we talk all about the power of mindset and how as women, our mindset can be the piece that keeps us tethered down or the piece that can set us free. I'm sure there'll be plenty of listeners who will relate to a lot of what we talk about in this episode. You know, just having these types of conversations can make us feel less alone and can allow us to feel seen and heard. If you want to connect further with the beautiful Jess, just go to the links in the show notes. Enjoy our chat. Welcome, beautiful Jess, to the podcast. I'm really looking forward to our conversation because we are a couple of women who can chat for any length of time. In fact, before the recording, we were chatting away for about 20 minutes until Jess said, I've got to pick up the kids from school shortly. Let's get cracking.
I was like, come on, we've got to get down to business, Jo.
Yeah. Nice to see you, to have fun.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Jo. Thank you for inviting me on. I can't wait to have this chat. And like you said, it could go on forever. So let's get started.
Let's get started and see where we end up.
Yeah.
Okay, Jess, all of your work is to do with empowering women, which I absolutely love because it's something that I'm also passionate about. So where did your purpose and passion come from to be empowering other women?
Oh, I think it's always been with me, but I don't think I realized the extent of it until maybe a few years back. So if I kind of rewind a while back, I grew up with my single mum, was one of 4 siblings. And well, for the most part, mum was a single mum. But I always saw her as this woman of strength, even though she didn't probably feel that way. I always saw her as this woman of strength. And you know, we had a tough time growing up. I went to 5 different primary schools. I lived in 3 different refuges. And it was challenging, but there was always this side of me that saw this strength in my mum. And so I think it was always this idea that we're pretty powerful, you know, like we're pretty mighty and we can do things. And so as I went throughout life, I think as I got to my teenage years, I really started seeing a lot more of that strength. I started connecting more to my gut, which I didn't really understand it. I started connecting more with my thoughts and my heart. And so I always had this idea that women can do so much and we just are so powerful. And then fast forward a few years, I had both my kids, and then I had second one, I started a business. And the reason why I started my first business was, lots of reasons, but one of the reasons was I felt like I'd lost myself. And so being able to reconnect with my creativity and reconnect with different ideas that I had about life, business sort of gave me that. So it also gave me that mindset side of I had to learn so much basically on the job. And I realized that when I was, it was a kids' streetwear business. So I designed clothing for children and I also had matching pieces for adults. But I found myself often talking to the mums. And it was always this message where it was sharing my deep thoughts with them in terms of, how we show up as women and how we show up as mothers and what we have available to us and how important self-care is and, role modeling and ripple effects and all of that. And the clothing I designed had like a deeper meaning to it. But I felt like I was sitting, like, as much as these women were really connecting with my message, I felt like I was speaking on the wrong platform, which is, then I got to a point where I was like, I feel like business is tugging me in a different direction. And that's where I stepped into the women empowerment space. I didn't actually know what it was going to look like, but I just knew it was literally like this physical tug at my heart that I just knew I have to go somewhere else. I just need to take a step. I don't actually know where I'm going, but I'm going there. But essentially the foundation came, I think, from what I saw from my mum and just having this belief in how incredible and powerful women are.
Oh, that's lovely. And I totally get that feeling, that tug, and knowing that that's a direction that you have to follow. So
Yeah.
beautiful with that, the ability to see your mum in that light as well, because our mums are our first teachers, aren't they? And
Oh, they are.
I know now, just the different life lessons that I've learned from my own mother. And even though she's passed, there's a beautiful song. Every day I hear my mother's voice, and it's just so spot on, because you hear and you feel and you see. So that's a really beautiful story, Jess. Thank you for sharing that with us.
No worries. And I think, how can I put it? As we get older, I think we appreciate our mums more, and we value more what they've brought to our life.
Yeah.
And I have this beautiful relationship with my mum, and she's she's a huge part. She's probably the main reason why I do what I do. And, followed by a few other things, but she's like a really strong part of that. And it's lovely to be able to have those conversations with her now and
Yes.
have such open conversations about just life in general. And she shines her light with her strength and her power,
Yeah.
Mm.
And does she see that? Like, or is she somebody who's a bit more reserved and finds that hard to hear? Because sometimes hearing those things about yourself, you go,
Yeah,
no,
I
Jess.
I think for a while there, she probably didn't believe it. She's gone through a lot. And so self-esteem and morale and that kind of thing wasn't always high. And she's had to go through her own sort of experiences and her own learning and her own personal growth to be able to receive that.
Yeah.
But because I love and adore the shit out of her, excuse the French, I always tell her, and she does accept them now, and she says thank you, and she's grateful for it, and she can see it in a different light now, which excites me so much to see her just welcome that into her life,
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah.
And often she says to me, like, she'll say to me, oh, I don't know, say the other day, she was like, Jess, I need your help with this thing at work or whatever. Things were going down. So I wrote an email for her. And then, anyway, afterwards I said to her, Mom, I'm really proud of you of how you actually stood up for yourself. And she was like, oh, thank you. I learned that from you. And I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful. So she's so open to receiving, but so open to just learning lessons and taking things in as well.
Yeah. And you've got a young daughter, Jess. So does she see, or she would see you modeling that, and she would see the relationship that you have with your mother and the way that you hold your mother in such high regard. Do you have discussions with your daughter?
Absolutely. I'm really open with my daughter. She's 11. But I've had very open conversations with her from very young. And it is this idea in our household, and not just with my daughter, but with my son as well, because I think it's just as important for him to realize how incredible women are. And so my husband is also very supportive of that and believes the same. So in our home, it's sort of like, it's just normal that women do these incredible things, you know. And with my daughter, we speak a lot about, you know, her self-worth and about experiences and about how we treat other females and how we allow ourselves to be treated. And she sees the relationship between, you know, my mum and I, and she has a big appreciation for my mum as well. So I'll talk to her about some of the things that we lived through in life and things that we had to learn that maybe some parents wouldn't talk to their kids at this age. But I think it's important for her awareness and understanding of what some people can really go through, but yeah, at the same time, how it can be different.
In reality, a lot of people go through it.
Yeah.
When you look statistically, there are a lot of people who are going through some really tough times and some very difficult situations where they have to leave the home or they have to be in some form of shelters. And so it's one of those things where now I suppose it's more open. Years ago, you never talked about that. That was a very shameful thing, which I suppose there's still that element there. But yeah, it's great to hear that you're able to have those sorts of conversations with your daughter as well.
Yeah, and she's wise beyond her years, so she always, you know, surprises me at how mature she can take. Maturely she can take this and really see it from a different light. And my son as well, you know, he comes out with the most random comments, but I'm like, wow, that's
boys and girls are very different. I had one of each, and they're totally worlds apart, aren't they? No, Jess, the power of our thoughts and our mindset absolutely, hands down, rules our lives, whether we realize it or not. And so many women, as you would have come across in your work, they play small. It can show up in lots of different ways. They may not have, you know, the confidence to apply for certain jobs, to leave a relationship, to, you know, even go for a certain position. Maybe they also put the dreams of others in front of their own because we're such, you know, natural givers. And I've found that in my work that it can go as far as putting their own health last and the health of everybody else ahead of them. What's your take on this? Why do you think that might happen?
It's also this idea of self-sacrificing,
yeah.
We've been taught to self-sacrifice. I think it's almost been like it's been taught to us in this way that it's not obvious, right? It's not like you have to self-sacrifice, but it's this constant idea from when we're growing up that you need to put other people's needs before yours, and that we have to always consider how someone else is going to feel about it and those types of things. And I think sometimes personality or just, you know, how you lived life plays into that. Like I know for myself, self-sacrificing behaviors was actually a really big thing. It was a really big part of me, and I had to learn to undo that. And that takes work, right? That's challenging. So I guess I come at it from a perspective of going through it myself, but then I also see it from the outside of seeing other women go through it. And I just feel like it's our society tells us that, right? And we just pick it up and we roll with it because women have to be super women and we have to be super moms and super wives, super, you know, everything. And this is just not the case, right? Like what makes us super is for us to know, actually, I draw a line here, or actually I'm going to create boundaries here, or actually I have to say no to this. That's what makes us super. But I lived at a point in my life where it was almost like I didn't feel like I could say no to people. Or more than that, I felt like their needs were more important than mine. So it was very easy for me just to go, oh, I'll just deal with mine. I'll just deal with mine. As long as that person is okay, as long as, you know, those things are all good, then I'll just deal with it. But the problem is you end up at a place where you've lost yourself, right? You've lost yourself. You've lost your sense of identity. You actually don't even connect with yourself. And that needs to be undone, right? As a society, we need to start to undo those things. I actually had this conversation with my daughter the other day, And it was around a particular type of dance that she loved to do. It was flamenco. So she's been doing flamenco since she was little, and she's bloody brilliant at it. Like, honestly, when she used to perform, I had parents coming up to me saying, oh my gosh, she's incredible. Is that your daughter? You know, it was just in her. Now, COVID happened, she left it, whatnot. It was like, no, Mum, I don't want to do it again. Then she went back to it just recently. And then she said to me, you know what? I don't want to do it anymore. Anyway, I had this big conversation about it. What we got down to was she's just not connecting with it. She's not feeling it anymore. And then she said to me, but everyone keeps telling me I should do it. And I think that, you know, some people are going to be upset with me because I'm not doing it. And I was like, she's probably really right. Like, she actually is right. But I said to her, honey, at the end of the day, you need to do what's right for you. So you can't be doing something just because somebody else is telling you that's what's good for you. People making decisions for you. So yes, she's only 11 and whatnot, but at the end of the day, I said to her, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you need to do it to people please.
Yep.
Right. And so it's that idea that we have to sort of put that people pleasing to the side at some point and put our needs first, and that self-sacrificing to the side and put our needs first. And then outside of me, yeah, definitely, I see women sitting in this space of fear of, I can't do that because what are people going to say about me? Or I can't go apply for that job because surely there's someone else that's better than me to go apply for it. Or I can't say that because I might hurt their feelings. And I'm not saying that we just go around just, you know, not caring about anybody. Of course not. But the thing is, at what cost are we shushing ourselves? At what cost are we putting our lives to the side? At what cost are we saying no to ourselves and yes to everybody else? Is it at the cost of losing yourself? And then knowing that your kids are watching that, like you said before, our kids are watching us and they're our first role models. So if that's what our kids are watching and we're doing that, what kind of role model are we being, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, I think, one of those things that we really need to become very aware of it. And in terms of the mindset side of it, until you are aware of it, you can't do anything about it. If you wear it as a badge of honor, you know, as like, oh, I do everything and I'm, you know, I like that whole idea that I'm always doing everything for everyone else and you're so proud of it. Well, you know, no offense to anybody, but it's not actually something you should be living proud of, you know. It's you should really question that, because then that means you're losing yourself in many, many aspects of your life.
Yeah. And of course, there's seasons where you do have, like when you've got young children, you do have to, there are seasons, but some people carry on that season for their whole lives. And as you said, it is like a badge of honor. You know, I have to do this and I've got to do this and I'm doing this and I've got no time, and a bit of a whinge and a whine at the same time, but it's always, you know, it's a choice as well.
It is a choice.
It's hard holding the mirror because, you know, for me, that was it was probably modeled to me as well. But that was me for quite a while until I started to fall in a spiral where you just can't keep that up. And you know, you get to a certain age in life where you go, enough's enough. I need to really focus now on me and my needs.
It.
Well, you can if you don't do anything about it. Yeah. And that's no way to live either. Yeah, so there's no black or white. There's lots of shades of grey in this whole conversation. So, and everyone's life is so completely different that there's no one and done. You can't follow a book. You've got to kind of muddle through a lot of this either by yourself and take a long way around, or to get some help to see certain things as well. And that is the key. For me, I found getting that help as well as moved me along my who I am as a woman a lot faster than if I tried to do everything by myself.
Absolutely. I mean, I ended up as well seeking help too, and that's what allowed me to see things in a different light. Perhaps, you know, she used to say to me, so how has that served you up until now? And I'd be like, oh, great. And then when she'd kind of start to pick at the layers, I was like, okay, I see what you're saying.
Stop picking at that scab.
Like, right then, fine. Like, either you accept it or you don't, right? Yes. But you kind of go, okay, I can see how that actually hasn't been working for me, but it's just been my coping strategy and my coping mechanism. And that's what that's what you do, right? Because you
Mm.
don't know different, and that's okay. And different stages will bring different challenges and different levels of how much you give and receive, you know. But there's always that moment where you have to give back to yourself.
Yes. And each generation is probably getting better at that as well. But
Yes, yeah.
I look at my daughter, and I look at, just hearing you speak about your daughter who is half her age, well, even sort of more than half her age, or less than half her age.
I know what you mean.
Thank you. I'm glad you know what I mean. Much younger. She's much younger, but she's got those skills and that awareness already.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't have had that at 11 years of age. Good God. I mean, there's no
No,
way I would have thought
God
about
no.
that.
God
Yeah.
no. But that's how we role model, right? We
Yeah.
at least try to. I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect. God, far from it. And there are times where I'm like, I'm doing this around here. What are you doing? You know. And I mean, they're, nasty habits that stick with us. But again, it's that awareness.
Yes. Yes, it is. Just talking about age as well, I know that getting older, I've got a lot less F's that I give about, what people might think.
Yes.
And for someone like myself who's left a really well-established job, career, to start my own business from scratch, that's taken a ton of courage. And on top of that, we're using social media and podcasting as a way then to reach other women. So apart from my own baggage, being open for that immediate judgment is amplified, and it can be so daunting at times. And, I know the women that you work with would also have this, and the women who are listening, but, you will still have that little voice that's whispering. It's sometimes small, it's sometimes loud. Sometimes people call that the bitch on the shoulder, saying those horrible things, or the inner mean girl. How do we as women move past some of that? Like, what have you found worked for you?
I think first of all, it's being really honest with yourself, because I do think that a lot of us kind of go, oh, I don't care what people think of me. But if you actually sit down and really think about what you're doing or what you're not doing, you'll probably realize that you care more than what you care to admit, right? And I know that for me, for a long time, I used to say, I don't care what people think. That's not my problem. And then there were certain times in my life where I was like, oh, I'm actually not doing that, because I'm caring too much about what that person thinks about me, what they're going to say about me, how they're going to view me. Does that mean that I'm going to change in their eyes? And what does that mean? Like, does that mean that they're not going to like me anymore? Does that mean they're going to think I'm arrogant? Like, there's so many different layers to it, right? And I think that judgment isn't just from that social media realm. For me, a big part of it was judgment from people close to me, because it was like they knew me well, and I would hate for them to think something different of me because I'm trying to do things differently or put myself out there. So I think the honesty piece is really important, to actually just be really honest with yourself and say, do I actually care about what people think of me? Yes or no? And it's most likely going to be yes. And if it's no, that's awesome, right? And then I think once you've acknowledged that with yourself, then it's a process of going, okay, working your way through it, right? So talking through that, whether it be yourself, whether it be journaling, whether it be with someone else, whatever it is, I think you have to get clear on why you're fearing that judgment, and getting really aware of that. And then also getting to a point where it goes back to what we spoke about earlier of saying, well, hang on a second, am I going to keep living my life around other people and what they expect from me? So it's almost changing the narrative, changing the conversation, changing the way you talk to yourself in order to allow yourself to explore this thing that is on your heart, right? And if it's on your heart, it's for a reason, to put yourself out there, to start this business, to go for that, put yourself on that podcast, to go for that interview, to apply for that job, whatever it is. You need to start changing the conversation with yourself and allowing yourself the space to say, I'm going to give this a go for myself. And regardless of what other people think of me, I trust in what's on my heart and I'm going to go with it.
And And that is not an easy thing to do, but it is a thing to do. And I think it's it's that 20 seconds of courage sometimes, isn't it? Just to
Exactly.
damn will do it. And
Yeah.
I was just, as you were saying that, two things came to mind was that, one, I think we've got to be also honest with ourselves and remind ourselves that not everyone's going to be thinking of us.
Mm-hmm.
And if they
Yeah.
are, does their opinion truly matter? Are they somebody whose opinion that you really value? And when it is somebody close to you, yeah, that's when it can hurt.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I thought of as well is that Brené Brown quote about being in the arena. Unless you're in the arena with me doing what I'm doing, I don't want to hear what your point of view is. It's
Exactly.
always easy to be a critic, but if you're doing what I'm doing, see how you go. There's lots of the gray that comes up when we're discussing things like this. It's not a one and done. Oh, yeah, it's easy for you to say. It's not easy to
No.
do. No, we know. Yeah, easy to
Not
say.
easy to say. It's not easy to do. It's
Easy
not
to
easy
do
to
is bloody
practice.
hard.
Like,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of work. It takes intentional work,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And unless you bring intention to it, you're going to keep doing the same thing you did the day before, right?
Mhm.
You have to step in at some point and change that narrative in your mind. And it's not easy, and you're going to feel challenged by it, and you're going to feel sweaty palms when you go to do it, and your heart's going to be racing, and there's going to be one little angel on your shoulder going, "You've got this, babe." And then there's going to be the bitch going, "Why are you even doing this?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
you're not worthy of this, blah, blah, blah. What is so-and-so going to say of you,
Mm.
So it is intentional work. And
Yep.
it's not I did it once or twice and we're good to go. It's, you have to keep doing this day in, day out. And some days you're going to wake up going, yes, I've got this. And other days you're going to wake up going, what the hell am I doing?
Yes. But starting and creating something like your own business is like self-development on steroids, isn't it? You go,
Time. It's like, I always describe it like this massive flashlight on you, like it doesn't turn off, and you're like, oh, where do I hide?
Not everyone's looking. And most people don't care what's under that flashlight.
Yeah.
But there's still that feeling that you have within yourself of, yeah. So it's it's an interesting part to go through as somebody like yourself and myself who have started something completely different to what we were ever expecting and creating something new.
Yeah, absolutely. I never, like, my husband used to say to me, babe, let's start a business. I'm like, you're crazy. Why would I want to have a business? Now ask me, I'm like, oh, God, how could you not have a business?
So we've talked about it's not a one and done process. So you don't just suddenly do something and that's it. That's the end of your self-development. Like self-development really should be ongoing throughout the whole of your life and having the courage to live a life that's true to yourself and not what everyone else is expecting of you. So what sort of work do you do yourself to improve your own mindset?
For me, it's being really in tune with myself, right? So I know that if I let my mindset drift away, then I know where it's going to end up. So it's about being really intentional of like, what am I thinking? What's the dialogue that I have going on inside of me, and bringing that intention. I think as well, for me, practicing gratitude has been a great thing. So like every night, just being able to reframe and really think about, what I'm grateful for that day. And sometimes they're big things like, oh, I won this award. And then other times they're really simple things that fill my heart up of like, I loved those snuggles with my son,
Yes.
So having that level of gratitude is always helps to keep me in the positive mindset. This trust as well, this trust that things happen for a reason and they happen for me, not to me, because it is easy to end up in that victim mentality that, oh, why is this happening to me? But if we can shift that and say, okay, what's this happening for? Like, what am I going to learn from it? What's the silver lining here? What can I gain from this experience? Like, I believe that that's how life works for us. Life's not out to hunt us down and make life torturous. I think it's about teaching us lessons so that we can grow into the next version of ourselves.
Yeah.
For me, moving my body as well, whether it be dance, whether it be walking, whether it be a workout, in the summer, a swim, just maintaining that kind of activity in my body because it just makes me feel good. So, You know, these past few mornings I wake up, I'm like, oh, it's so cold. Like it's 3 degrees outside.
Yes.
But then at the same time, if I can focus on, I know I'm going to feel good after that walk, then that's where my mind goes. And that's what I focus on, not on, I'm so cold right now, you know? So it's all these little things that I think sometimes we undermine the strength and the value and the power that they have to really work with our minds. But I think they're the things that make the biggest difference in our day-to-day, and massively the way I talk to myself.
Yeah.
The way I communicate with myself, you know, because nobody's hearing it. I can say whatever I want.
Yes.
But I can stay on top of that and actually hold myself accountable, to speak to myself nicely, to be kind to myself, to be, you know, have grace with myself. Then I know that I can at least tackle the day in a better light, rather than just being hard on myself and, you know, getting judgy and, oh, you're so stupid and why didn't you do this? And, you know, we all have our moments, but when you start to bring awareness to that, you are much more likely to have a much nicer conversation with yourself.
Yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree with all the things that you said there, Jess. Yeah. Very wise words, my dear. Now, one of the biggest triggers for many women is a whole thought of getting older and dealing with lots of big life changes and transitions that happen along the way. And you recently turned 40, so you're now into the club of getting older. How is that?
Yes.
Yeah, and I know from having a couple of little messages with you that you were, the lead up was a bit
Yeah.
How did you find all of that and the mindset around it?
It's been interesting, Jo.
Yeah.
It's been interesting because I was really fortunate. So it's kind of had its two sides to it, right? So I've been really fortunate that I've created these beautiful friendships with women like yourself that are older, that live life to the fullest, that have such a young, vibrant spirit about them, and that age doesn't define them. Right. So I'm really leading up to 40, like it's, you know, you always have that, I'm turning 40 soon, I'm turning 40 soon. But then the other side of it was like, but look at these women, like 55 and they're kicking off a business, you know, or they're, you know, they're whatever, right? They're living life in a way that makes life whole and full for them. So then approaching 40, I really had that attitude where I was like, you know what, it's just another number. I embrace this. I'm grateful for actually being here at 40, right? To be here with my kids, to be able to have this life, to be able to have turned around, like, you know, the circumstances we lived as a kid versus what we live now, like all of that gratitude, right? I was really excited about turning 40. And then there's this idea that on the other side, you hear all the, oh, 40, oh, I'm getting old now. Oh, this doesn't work. Oh, like all this negativity, right?
Yeah.
And then there's this little, you know, the mean girl in your head kind of going, oh, you're 40 now. You're getting older. You're in the next age bracket now, you know, like, you know.
Won't you try to find your year on that little scroll thing and you try to
keep on going.
Where is it?
You know, when I'm filling out forms, it's not like the 35 to 39 age group anymore. I'm like, okay, now I'm 40 plus.
Keep going.
You know, and even I said to my husband yesterday, I was like, oh, Bex, I'm going to be, I've really stepped into a new level for me. And I'm like, into that redefining midlife.
Wait till you're my age and you've got the little pimply person, the little kid at the, you know, the grocery store asking if you're on a senior's card yet. And you go, no.
That's right. Oh gosh. So, you know, and he's 40, he's been 40 for a few years now, and he's like, I know, like, how does it feel? And I'm like, it's just kind of having to embrace this rather than go with the societal thoughts and the negativity and the getting old and this, and even not just as like, even just friendships, you know, like we're all hitting this age. And so many of my friends have this idea of like, oh, it's because we're old now. And I'm like, but you know, if we're like, to me, it's like, how do I feel? I don't feel 40, right? But at the same time, I do feel 40 because it's not a negative thing to me. But there was definitely days where I felt challenged by it. Like I felt like, wow, I'm actually going there. And you think about life in a different way, and you think about your kids, and oh gosh.
You were like me,
But
because the lead up to 40, I did not like. I thought I struggled. Like I don't know why.
yeah,
I just, in my head, I struggled. But as soon as the moment I hit 40, it was nothing. I was fine. And I
yeah,
have been, like, age for me now, it's just an absolute pleasure. I love getting older. This is, for me, every year is the best year I've had so far. And if you
love
keep
it.
with that sort of thing and that sort of mindset, yeah, you can't do what you used to do when you were 40, but when you were 40, you couldn't do what you used to do when you were 10 either, so it's all
Exactly.
all relative.
That's true.
Um,
That's true.
I don't know. I just think the thought of getting older and dealing with that, and then once you sort of get to that magic number and you go, well, nothing's changed. I'm still who I was before.
Yeah,
But,
exactly. And
mm,
I think honestly, for me, seeing people around me that is living life, like, because there's so much of the people that you see that are like, oh, well, I'm old now. Oh no, it's just the same. Oh, I can't change anything. Oh, like that negativity, I'm like, ugh, it just makes me want to vomit,
yes. Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
being surrounded with the people that don't see it like that, that
Mm,
see as like, I can still keep adventuring life, and I can still keep creating, and I can still keep moving my body, and I take care of myself and all of that. Like
mm,
I take care of myself more now than what I did when I was 20, when I
yes.
was 25. So I just think to myself, it's what you make it as well, and actually up the street there's a retirement home, and I always walk around there and I always think to myself, what do the people in this space think about their life? Right? Are they sitting there going, I wish I had of this, I wish I had of that,
Mm,
and living with those regrets? Or are they saying, I had a pretty good life, I'm loving this?
mm.
And the other day, I usually see this little old lady. She's got, she's on her frame and she's walking in the 3 degrees as well, right? All her like gloves and her mittens and her beanies and her jacket and everything. And I just look at her and I think, I want to be like you.
Yeah.
I want to be moving my body at whatever age. I want to be. Actually, we had this conversation with my daughter yesterday. There was a lady crossing the road in her little Vespa looking thing, like a little, what do they call them? The electric
Ability
wheelchair.
to, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the mobility scooters.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, I said to my daughter, oh, I want one of those when I'm older. And she's like, yeah. And then I said to her, actually, no, I want one of those if I've got to carry the groceries home and there's too many. I said, but I want to walk to the shops instead. And she's like, yeah, I reckon we'll walk to the shops. But then if you have to do the shopping, then we'll take some of those back on the scooter. But it's bringing that whole idea of like life is what you make it and what you create from it. And I know there's many different layers to it, and things change as we get older.
Yeah.
We all start to feel it, but I really do think your attitude and how you go into it has so much to do with it. I look at my mum; she's still young and vibrant. No, but sometimes I ask her, "You sisters?" She's
Mm,
just she's still got that vibrancy about her, which is, I think, what helps her feel young and
yes.
alive.
Yeah, that's fabulous. That's so good. What are you looking forward to in this stage of life? Like, is there something that you go, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this?
I'm looking forward to creating more impact, of really kind of, like I said before, I don't feel like life, although life has been challenging for me in many different layers and different stages of my life, I feel like it all has had a purpose, right?
Mm,
And I feel like now that I've stepped into this space in my business, it means I can share more of that, and I can inspire more people, and I can empower more people, and I can perhaps bring a different light to people's lives. And if I can do that, like even just talking about it makes my heart feel all like, like little
yeah.
dinosaurs roaring in there. But I just feel like I'm looking forward to that stage where my kids are a little bit older. They don't need me as much. Like, yes, I will always need me and I'll always need them, but there's a bit more space in terms of being able to do the things that light me up, and just being able to create more memories, just doing life in a way that feels really right for you, not because now I need to do this, now I need to tick that box, just having that freedom and space to create your own. That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
Mm.
Well, I certainly hope that comes true for you.
Absolutely, it
Yeah.
will.
Well, it will come true for you. Yes, I won't. I'll rephrase that. I look forward to seeing it unfold for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what are your dreams for the future with your business, Jess? Have you got anything that, really big ticket items that you would love to be able to do, or see the business in a certain light?
Speaking at massive conferences.
I can see that.
Oh, it's like it scares the shit out of me, but at the same time, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. It's that
Yes.
adrenaline that I always look for. It's like something like that gives me that adrenaline, but that also goes back to the impact.
Yeah.
So being able to do something like that would be incredible. So that's one of the big things. And just seeing women, like particularly in those early stages of business where they start to back themselves, like
Yeah.
seeing that happen and unfold in front of you is such a gift, because you see these shifts in these women. And I just want to see more of that. I want to see more of that, because I just believe that there's such a ripple effect to that. Our kids are watching, our families are watching, the people around us are observing. And if more of us can be doing the things that light us up in life, then it just inspires and encourages others to do the same.
Yeah. I was thinking when you were saying that the ripple effect is massive. And it's one that you'll never know the legacy that you leave by just what you've done. If you've just touched one person, for me,
Absolutely.
I've done what I would have ever hoped to achieve in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an important reminder that we're not always going to see the ripple effects,
Yeah.
but what you're doing is actually really valuable and important. And it might be, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren that go, oh yeah, my grandma, my great-grandma, she used to,
Yeah.
and I think the stories that are left behind for people to continue on with is so powerful.
It is. And we'll wrap up the interview now, Jess, with the question just at the end. And it'll tie in nicely with everything that we've discussed in the last 10 or so minutes. So if you could look into the future, what do you hope that 80-year-old Jess will say about current day Jess?
I'm so proud of you. Yeah, that's what I want her to say. I want her to look back and go, I'm so proud of you, because you did what you wanted to do. You led with your heart, and you created what you wanted.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. It's going back to that whole thing that I said when I walk past a nursing home and I think about what will they think.
Yep.
It's that same thought. I want to be able to look back and go, yes, good on you. You did it. You lived a full life. You put all the BS to the side and actually tuned into yourself and created what you wanted. So yeah, that's what
I
she'll
hope
be saying.
95 Joe can talk to 80-year-old Jess and have this same conversation. That would be fun.
Oh, yes, please. Yes.
We'll have races in our mobility scooters. No, we won't. We'll have foot races.
Yeah. Well, like my daughter said,
but I want a head start because I'll be 15 years older.
Like my daughter said the other day, she goes, actually, Mum, when I'm old, I want to have like a hoverboard and just ride on my hoverboard. Yeah, I'll rock up in my hoverboard.
Oh, I hope your balance is okay.
Yeah, I know.
Start working on that now.
I just had the walking frame in front of me.
Yes. And a sumo suit.
Yeah.
Oh, Jess, it's been an absolute delight having you on today to talk about all things mindset, and just, it's these are the sort of conversations that I love having, and they don't happen enough, I think, between women. And so it's important that we've had this today, and I hope the women who are listening have had pause to think about something in their lives that they might have been not sure about doing, and it's going to give them the courage just to take those 20 seconds of courage and take that big bold step.
Absolutely. Just take that moment for yourself.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be leaving or changing a career, just something that you've been wanting to do. And
just one step, one step that you can take. Those little steps are actually the biggest steps, but you have to take that first step to take the second step.
Absolutely.
So, you can get there. Just break it down and make it happen.
Yep. We believe in you.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much, Joe, for having me and for opening this space as well for for women, and just bringing that energy. Like I said, you were one of the ladies that I was like, so I admire you so much, and
Thank you,
I've always said it to my husband, I'm like, I love Jo. She's just freaking brilliant,
Oh, keep going. What else do you say? What else?
And he's like, okay,
Enough already.
But yeah, I just love that you're creating this space and that this is available for women to be able to look at life differently. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Jess. Lovely to speak to you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening and sharing your time with me today. I'd love you to hit subscribe on Apple Podcast or your favourite podcast app to keep spreading these empowering messages. Please share this podcast with other incredible midlife women in your world. Join me again next week for another redefining midlife conversation. Thanks again for tuning in.